Hey everybody, what's up? Now, I want you to guess, is this video a 720 video and did I convert it to 1080 or is it true 1080? You figure that out. But you know, I wanted to talk about something while I've got the chance. You see, a lot of people, including the Off the Rope Show and the Schleg Daddy and a lot of others out there, they're always asking the question as to why. They want to know exactly why TNA seems to copy WWE. Well, I found something very interesting this morning online. It seems that it was during WrestleMania weekend that, and maybe I read this incorrectly, but lordsofpain.net along with various other sources reported that it seemed Dixie Carter was more interested in what they, WWE, were doing instead of what they, TNA, should be doing. Take that if you will. But it seems that Dixie Carter is more interested in paying attention to what WWE is doing than what her own company should be doing. And then, to further this, ladies and gentlemen, it seems that TNA is reporting that the reason Eric Young won the World Heavyweight Championship on Impact a few weeks ago, the live episode of Impact, was to shock and surprise people. Yeah, take that for what you will, but I believe it's a little bit more than that. I think TNA is just trying to, build off the momentum WWE's got going for Daniel Bryan. Just saying. I mean, let's talk about the segment on Impact this past Thursday. Dixie talking about the beard. Hello? What does that not tell you? That tells you that TNA and Dixie Carter is paying more attention to what WWE is doing and saying, we can make that our own by doing it with this individual. It's like, come on. I mean, who is TNA, who is Dixie Carter think they're fooling? I mean, and get this, there's a lot of people, according to these various sources, that feel that several people, one person called Big John, is over his head when it comes to creative, way over his head, and that Dixie Carter is basically not running the company the way it should be run. Does that surprise me or anybody else to read that kind of information? No. Basically, this just proves, according to these sources, that it seems Dixie Carter is more interested in what WWE does at times than what her company should be doing to make themselves different, to make themselves an alternative. It makes you wonder why some people are starting to kind of grow interest, whether some like to admit it or not, why they are suddenly growing interest in the new GFW, Global Force Wrestling, that's coming. Or why, all of a sudden, you have all these now former TNA alumni going over to not just IWGP in New Japan, but going to Ring of Honor as a part of this whole crossover deal, just going back to Ring of Honor because they feel like it. It's because when they look at Ring of Honor and they look at IWGP New Japan, they look at two promotions, one overseas and one here in the States, that are being different, that are being alternatives like they should be. They're not trying to copy off another company's momentum. They're not. So, again, take it take it for what it is. Take it for what you will. But it seems that TNA, according to this very source, especially Dixie Carter, pays more attention to the WWE product than her own product and what the WWE is doing than what TNA should be doing. Now I know this may not come as a surprise to anybody, but with this report, it just further confirms, it just further acknowledges and confirms that. And that, to me, if you're a TNA fan and a TNA follower, should really tick you off. Because to me, I'm a fan of TNA. I haven't watched Impact in a while, but I do pay attention. I do watch some of the clips on YouTube, and I do find some of the things they do interesting. I mean, I like the fact that they got the beautiful people back together, but here's what I look at when it comes to the beautiful people being back together. All I see is the seeds being planted for Velvet Sky versus Angelina Love at Bound for Glory 2014. That's what I see. I see the seeds being planted for that. You could say, oh, that's not true. It is true. Why suddenly bring Angelina back and reunite her with Velvet if you're not going to do something more major with them? How many times have fans been clamoring, whether they want to admit it or not, for Velvet versus Angelina? And not just an Angelina that's like, I do what Winter tells me to do. No. Or a drugged up Angelina that doesn't know what she's doing. No. They want a legit beautiful people versus beautiful people match, whether they want to admit it or not. But the point is, I like the fact that they brought them together, but I also see, and I'm sure anybody would agree with me, they are planting the seeds for that eventual matchup at the end of this year, whether they want to admit it or not. And again, what's crazy about this, folks? What's crazy about this is that's just some of the originality that TNA seems to be going for in their own way to try to make themselves different. But that's only like 25%. The rest of the 75% of TNA is like, hey, look what WWE's doing. Let's do the same thing. Let's copy off their hot rising star story. Or let's copy this. Let's do this. It's stupid. But the proof's in the pudding, if you will. If you read these articles, go to lordsofpain.net. Go to the TNA news section. You'll see what I'm talking about. But the point is, if that is true, then Dixie Carter, with all due respect, and we give you all the respect in the world for being the first true female owner of a wrestling company, even before Stephanie McMahon has inherited her father's, with all due respect to Stephanie McMahon. But Dixie Carter, we do give you all the respect for that. But if you don't know how to run a company, the wrestling portion-wise, creatively, storyline-wise, building new star-wise and all that, booking-wise, then get out of the fire. Then get out of the fire before you get incinerated. Get out of the fire, get out of that incinerator before you get incinerated. Keep yourself off television, Dixie. Tell those dumb nuts, those numb nuts, if you will, those dumbasses, excuse my language, Lord, to keep you off television, let you be the president you need to be, let you run the business aspect of it outside of camera reign, off camera, in Nashville, and let those that know how to do the wrestling operations, real life or storyline, doesn't matter, deal with how it should be done. So, that's just my opinion, though. That's just my opinion. But to me, it just proves without a shadow of doubt that TNA is going to keep copying WWE, whether it's the hottest storylines or it's not the hottest storylines. They're going to keep copying them until at least WWE gets their asses, excuse my language again, Lord, out of their butts and say, you know what? We need to get more original and we need to do things differently. Because obviously that's why TNA keeps doing these things. That's why you keep seeing Dixie on television. That's why you keep seeing these power struggle storylines. Because they see WWE's doing exactly the same thing. I mean, the way I look at it, with all due respect, as much as I believe TNA needs to start going back to being that alternative, they won't probably do that until WWE stops doing what they're doing. In other words, as long as you see Stephanie McMahon, and I'm a fan of Stephanie McMahon, so don't get me wrong about that, but as long as you see her walking down in the heel role she's in right now, alongside Triple H, on camera almost week after week, you're going to see the same thing with Dixie. I mean, isn't it ironic? She came back around that same time. She came back around the same time, WrestleMania 30 was happening. Isn't it kind of ironic that happened? But anyway, that's what I'm pointing out. I mean, it's even more ironic she turns heel at the same time Triple H and Stephanie do. So again, with all due respect, I don't think TNA is going to stop copying WWE until WWE finds a way to basically be more original. I mean, and I know people are going to sit here and they're going to say, well, Brian, companies will copy off each other no matter what. Yeah, it's excuse me. It's like one person said, it's one thing to copy off a storyline or reuse a storyline from 10, 20 years ago, but it's another to try to copy and reuse and remake a current storyline that another company is currently doing to make into your own. Because people are going to see right through it. So to me, I look at it this way. TNA will not stop copying WWE's storylines and situations. Dixie Carter will not stop paying attention to what WWE is doing until WWE stops doing what they're doing and tries something different. Because then TNA is going to have to figure, okay, what do we do to try to be different? Or try to be... Because here's what's going to happen. If WWE ever decides to try to be different again, in other words, stop reusing the same storylines and all that, whether they're good or not, and they go in a direction that's totally different, TNA is going to have to come up with a different way as well. Because they're going to see WWE, what they're going to be doing, and they're going to be like, now at first they might say, well, how can we do what they're doing so people pay attention to us? And once they figure, oh, wait a minute, we can't because we don't have that kind of an individual, or we don't have those kind of resources, then they're going to have to come up with being different. You know what I mean? They're going to have to come back with being an alternative. So hopefully that will happen. But to me, that is why TNA constantly copies WWE, in my opinion. It's because Dixie Carter's paying more attention to what they're doing instead of what her company should be doing. And that's about it. So you guys let me know if you agree or not with that, and I'll talk to you later. Comments are welcome.